the top 10 sales figure. Okay, so sales figure are in the column number I. So they are requesting you to find out what are the top 10 sales figure, right? So we have already applied the conditional formatting. So I will just go again to the cell, go to the home tab, go to the condition formatting, and then I will go to this top bottom rules, and then I will select the top 10 items, right? And then it will highlight all those top 10 values which has made the maximum sales, right? So this is how you can just uh, analyze the data and then represent it that these are the 10 sales figure we have made so far selling these products, right? Selling in these quantities, right? And you can do a lot of things. You can apply multiple condition formatting, right? If you have the basic understanding how these functions work, and you can always go to manage rules, edit them, customize them, or remove them. That is up to you. And then the last question is highlight the sales column to demonstrate sales with above average and below sales. So I think we have already done that. So with this, we have finished our first exercise to use conditional formatting in data visualization, data analysis, and the data representation. So any question you want to ask in conditional formatting before we proceed to the next exercise, that is the if statements. So I will give you 30 seconds. Just take grasp whatever we have learned, and then we will move forward.
Can we add more than 2 or 3 rules in a single cell?
Yes, you can apply more than one rule. There is no limit of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. As you can see, I have already applied two rules in this column number I. One is to represent the sales, high sales, low sales, right? And then second one is to highlight top 10 sales. So you can apply multiple. There is no limit of that. But there is the purpose should be clear that why you are applying, right? Okay. So anyone? If not,
How
then
could we differentiate
yes, please.
in the cell if we are doing one or two more rules, and how can we differentiate that we have did for this, and we are did for less profit, we are did for more profit, different rule we are doing, like, right? So that how can we differentiate there?
Okay, so first of all, whenever you apply conditional formatting, you should have a clear purpose that why I'm applying conditional formatting, right? But if somebody has given you a presentation or Excel sheet and you want to see that how many rules has been applied in a single sheet, you can simply go to this complete sheet, or there is no need to select the sheet. Go to home, go to conditional formatting, and then go to manage rules, right? So if you don't select anything, then no rules will be visible. If you select the sheet, it will display all the rules which has been applied in this Excel sheet, and then you can see what are these rules doing, how they are interacting, and whether you need them or you don't need them, right? So this is how you can differentiate the different conditional formatting rules which we have applied. I think that was the question.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
welcome. Okay, so next we are talking about the if statement. So ifs are very important because in life we always in the situation to choose between two or more things. So there is a real life scenarios of if statements. If I have the money, I would purchase this. If I don't have the money, I will not purchase this. If I have 1,000, I will go for the headphones. If I have 500, I will go with the wired headphones, right? So these if conditions are actually real life conditions, and we will learn how to use them in Excel to get our things done, or to filter our data, analyze our data, and to, you can say, you can do multiple things when you have a basic understanding of if. So how many of you are actually familiar with the if statements, multiple if statements, and combining if statements with different functions? You can just comment and let me know. Okay. So we are now talking about the if statement. So let us, first of all, we will try to understand the syntax of if statement, how this if statement is actually working. So for that, I will go to the formula tab, then we will go to the insert function, and then I will type the if is already available. So just simply go to if and click OK. Now this new window is appear to you. So now there are three, you can say, arguments in if statement. So the first argument is talking about a logical test. What is that condition which you want to test, right? For example, you want to test that whether a student has scored more than 80% or not. So this is one condition which you want to test. So that is a logical test. And then second argument is what would happen if that statement or if that argument is true. What would happen if the this function find out that actually Anderson has scored more than 70 or 80% marks? What do you want to do with that? That is the value if true. That is the second argument. And then last is what if this statement is false? What if the Anderson has scored less than 70% marks? What do you want to do then? So these are the three arguments. First is the condition which you want to test. Second is the output if the condition is true. And second, a third one is the output when the condition is false. So I hope the syntax is clear to all of you. It's simple choice, right? You're just choosing between the two things. What would happen if I have the money? What would not? What would happen if I have the less money? So these are the simple real life situations. So we will apply this real life situation in this Excel sheet to get the output. So let us see how to apply it. There are two ways you can apply. You can either go with this tab or this window, or you can simply type the formula in your cell. So the first question which we are trying to answer is his, that use a fixed reference to find whether block is pass or fail. Block is a student, and you want to find out whether that student has passed or failed. But there is a condition. The condition is any score which is less than 70 should be considered fail. So you know that the block is fail because the data is so small that you can actually find out. But what if there are thousands of rows and you have to identify one person, whether that person is fail or pass? That is the time when you apply these functions and actually get your job done. So let us see how to apply that. Simply go to that option and type is equal to, this is how you start your Excel functions or formulas, and type if. So if followed by the open parentheses, we call them parentheses, and then we will write our condition here. So what is the condition? The condition is we want to check whether this cell is less than 70, right? What would happen? Then the answer should be fail. If not, then answer should be pass. So answer is fail. Why? Because we have applied a condition to check whether that person has scored less than 70. I can reverse the same condition. Simply go again and I can reverse it. If the person is scoring greater than 70, then the output should be pass, and if less than 70, then output should be fail. You see? And if I change the scores here to 78, the output is pass. Can you understand what I'm trying to explain here? If you have any doubt, please clarify it. So for those who are practicing along, you can do it right here and apply this if statement to find out. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, now let's move forward with the another important thing, that is the references. They're talking about use a fixed reference. So what is the fixed reference? Can anyone tell me that what do you understand by fixed reference? Okay. So in Excel, there are two types of references. The absolute reference, which are also called fixed reference, and there are the variables that when you don't define a value, you just use a variable. But in the case of Excel, we use our cells to use as variables. For example, I used this cell as a variable, and whatever the value is in this cell will be considered the value to be used in the Excel function, right? So if I just fix the value, I don't want to use this cell, I just want to use 45, right? So this statement is already true because 43 is less than 7, sorry, is true, is false because 70 is greater than 43, right? So that is why we always use variables, so that we can change the values in those variables on the cells, so that we don't have to edit our formula again and again, right? So this is the concept of fixed and absolute references. Now I want to find out the values, the output of all the students, that how many students are passed and how many students are failed. So I will apply if statement here. If, and I will take this cell reference here, is greater than 70, then the output should be pass, and if less than 70, then output should be pass. And now you see that I am using these codes to use my text, but I am not using any codes to use numbers. So this is again a way to differentiate numbers and text in Excel. Whenever you are using any string or text, you have to keep them under these codes, but there is no need to use codes for numbers. So this is how you differentiate. If I don't apply the codes here, the Excel function will crash and it will not work, right? So I will just, sorry, I used pass for the both statements. Now the result is pass, we know, because the score is more than 70. So let's apply 67 here. The output is fail. Now I want to apply the same function to the below cells. What do I do? There is a simple way, or I would say complex way, to type again and again the function. But there is a simple way, is to just select the cell, go to this cross icon and just drag it down, and it will automatically apply the formula to all these cells. How it is possible? Well, when we use variables or we use cell reference, the Excel will automatically change the cell reference as you move the cell formula from top to bottom and bottom to up, left to right, right to left. It will take the adjacent cell as a reference. So this is the one way to save your time, right? So as you just keep dragging your formula down, it will just keep changing the cell reference, the adjacent cell, and you will see the formula will be applicable to all the cells. So this is how you just answer the first question, and you answer the second question also to find out whether a dove is passed or not. So he's failed. So any question in if function, please.
Hi, this is Shrikant.
Yeah, please.
In if function, there is a greater than 70, what you have shown, right? The greater than and less than and
Yeah.
equals to, we do it.
Yes.
In if, is there anything double nested, if functions can be done?
You are asking about multiple if statements.
Correct, correct.
Yeah, I just covered that. Yeah. Right, so
Okay, sure.
here we have just covered this single if statement, but what if there are multiple conditions we want to satisfy? Then we use multiple if statements. So first you have to understand the basic if, then only you can apply multiple if. So this is the exercise to find out another simple if statement, to see there is a combination of two functions, if and. So how many of you have read this logical expressions in science or math, where there are three types of logical expressions: and, or, and not? And means you have to satisfy two conditions to get the desired output. Or means either first or second. If any one of these statement is true, the output will be given to you. And not is reverse. We don't use not much in Excel, but and or are used more often. So we have combined if and statement here to find out if that the student Colby has scored overall more than 70%. Yes, if the student Colby is scoring more than 70%, then he should be considered pass. But if he is scoring less than 45% in any subject, he should be declared fail. So there are two conditions which if statement is trying to satisfy. First is to find out whether the person has scored more than 70%, and second, to find out whether the student has scored less than 45 in any of these subjects. So with this, you can use and statement to satisfy two conditions in a simultaneously in the same data set. So we will see how to apply the and statement, if and. So first of all, just simply go to this if statement, open parentheses, right, and then type and. Now the and function wants to know what are the tests which you want to conduct here. So the first test I want to see that whether the person has scored more than 45 in English. So I will select this cell and use the greater than sign, 45, and then second condition again for this cell, whether that person has scored more than 45 in maths. Select this cell, go to 45. Then third condition for physics, more than 45. Again for chemistry, 45. Then again for physical education, more than 45. Then again comma, and last condition is for right. So these are the condition. The if statement will ask the and statement to find out whether that person has scored 45, more than 45 in all these cells. If yes, then find out the last statement, that is whether the person has scored more than 76 in this overall cell value. So I will select this and go to greater than 70 and then close bracket. So what would happen if this statement is true? What do you want to do? I want to declare it pass, and if the statement is false, I will declare it fail. So it is obviously fail because he has scored 33 marks in physics, which is actually less than 45. So if I change the score here to 56, the output is pass, as you can see, right? So this is how you apply the if and multiple and statements, right, to get the desired outputs. If you have multiple conditions and you want to satisfy two or more conditions, that is the one way applying if and there is no limit how many and statements you want to apply, how many or statements you want to apply. It's all up to you. Okay, so any question in if or and we will move forward with the multiple ifs within the ifs. I hope that these things are making sense.
Can you please explain me once again,
Okay,
if you don't mind?
okay, so I will just take it, I will just leave it for now. And then first I will explain multiple if, then I will go back to the and, that will make more sense, right? Okay.
Okay.
So now we are talking about multiple if statements. So there is a condition. There is not one condition. There are actually five conditions. We are giving a grading according to the scores scored by the students. For example, if the person is scoring 0 to 63, the grading should be F. If 64 to 72, the grading should be D. If 73 to 84, C, B, and A, and so on, right? And then we will check the scores. We will take the data from this sheet. We will apply the multiple ifs and find out what is the grading of each student. So for that, we will apply multiple ifs. So first we understood the if statement. Now there is ifs. As you can see, I've already applied it here. The ifs, right? Ifs, first condition, second condition, third, fourth, and fifth. So this is how you apply multiple conditions. So I will just again apply it for you here, right? So is equal to ifs logical test first. What is the first logical test you want to apply here? The first logical test should be if the person is scoring less than 64, then the output should be F, right? So that is the first condition which I want to satisfy. So take this cell here. If this is less than 63, sorry, 64, this is the first condition. The second condition, again I will select the same cell, because I am applying multiple conditions to the same cell. If the person is scoring less than 73, right? Or you can just reverse it. I will just reverse it because that will make more sense. Let's see. So 41 is scoring, if the person is scoring less than 73, then the output should be D, right? So I will, sorry, I have not given the argument here. If the person is scoring less than, the output should be F. If the person is scoring less than 73, then the output should be D. If the person is scoring less than 85, then the output should be C. If the person is scoring less than, you can say 95, then the output should be B. And then last argument is, if the person is scoring uh, greater than 94, then the output should be A. So that is the final argument. So let us see. If the person is scoring greater than 94, then the output should be A. And then close the argument. You see, this person has scoring more than 90, 95, right? I have given the 94, so it is giving the A. So if I change the number here to, let's say, 62, the output is F. The person is failed. This is how you apply multiple if conditions to satisfy your, uh, you can say, conditions. So any doubt in multiple ifs? Yeah, please take some time and please understand it, what I have just written here, so that you can grasp. I will just zoom it out. You see, first if condition, what should be the output? Second if condition, what should be the output? Third, fourth, fifth. And you can play with them when you have understood the basic concepts and how if statements work. You can reverse the whole process. You can use is equal to, greater than, is equal to, less than, combine them and get your desired outputs. So any doubt in the multiple ifs, you can just clarify it right now. Okay, so if there is no doubt, then I will just answer the question which we just parked, the if and statement. So first of all, you have to understand the and function. So if I apply it and, so it is asking me what is the first logic you want to apply here, what is the second logic you want to apply, what is the multiple logics which you want to apply. So logic can be anything. Either you can compare two numbers, either you can compare two cells against each other, right? Or you can just satisfy with using any number of arguments. So that is the and function. So when we apply two different functions within a single function, the first function, that is the if function, it is asking the and function to give it an input, right? As you have read in the first the syntax which I explained about the if, the first syntax, first argument was a logical condition. So now the if is asking the and function to give it a logical condition. Then based on that logical condition, if will give it the output based on the true and false. If all these conditions under the AND function are true, the output should be pass, and if any one of them is false, the output should be fail. That is the AND, which means if we have applied three conditions and if any one of them is false, the overall output will be false. Or if any one of them is true, right? So matlab ek one condition should I mean to say that all the conditions should satisfy the conditions which we have applied. If any one of the condition is not true, the resulting output will be false. So that is the and if you apply or means if any one of these conditions is true, the resulting output will be true. So that is the or. But and combines all the arguments and then give a single output. So this is how you apply and if. You can try it at your own time, because in this single session I will not be able to give multiple examples because I have to cover a lot of other functions here. So just to give you the overview, I use this if and that you can explore the multiple dimensions and go with these if and right. So I hope that you will go back and practice these functions to get a better understanding of these multiple functions, right? So we just finished our second exercise of if, nested if, and combining if with other functions like and or. So I hope that you are able to understand the basic syntax of if. That is the goal. I don't want to just become master in multiple if statements and arguments. Just the goal is to understand how if statements work, so that you can just simplify your work using the simple conditions, right? So any doubt in if before we move forward with our count if? Just take some time and then you can ask a question. Okay, I hope there is no questions. That let's move forward to the countif. So now we will use this data set and we'll answer these questions using the countif. So what is actually countif? Countif है क्या actually? So countif is exactly similar to if statement, but instead of giving an output in true or false, it is actually counting the values based on a condition, right? For example, if I say if this cell in this cell I want to count how many times Adams has been used, right? So that I can do with the countif statement. I will just simply select this column, apply the condition, and then it will give me the desired output. That is the one. If I want to see that how many times pencils has been bought, then I can use the countif function to give me the output that yes, 20 times the pencil has been bought. That is another. And then I want to see that how many times, right, the Adam has purchased pencils in the month of January. That I can also do with the countif by applying multiple countifs. So we will see the syntax and then we will apply these functions in these columns to understand to give the output which the question is asking. The first question is find out how many times pencils has been purchased. So this is one simple argument which we try to satisfy here. But first of all, let's understand the syntax of countif. Simply go here and type countif and then select OK. So now this is the syntax. The first is range. So range is the column or data set where you want to apply the countif to calculate the values. So that is the range. And range can be one cell, two cell, three cells, or a whole column, or whole row, or a whole data set. That is up to you where you want to apply it. So range is the range of cells from which you want to count non-blank cells, right? So this will be another function will explain what is blank and non-blank. And then the criteria. The criteria is condition, which we just understood in the if function. You give a condition, it's satisfied, and it gives the output, right? But instead of giving output in true or false, countif is actually counting the values. If that condition, if that argument is present in your data set, the countif will count that how many times that condition is present in that data. So that is the criteria. So range is number of cells. The criteria is the condition which you want to satisfy. So let us apply this countif statement to find out how many times pencils has been purchased. Simply double click is equal to countif. So when you apply any function, either you can just double click it or it will show you the whole syntax, or you can simply type if you are very comfortable with functions. So first it is asking me to give it a range. Where is the data which you want to calculate? So my data is in this items column, which holds all the items. So I will just simply select at the top cell. I will press my shift, control, and my down arrow key in my keyboard to select the whole column up to the last cell, right? So this is the power of Excel. You don't have to waste time in dragging your cells down. Simply press shift control down arrow to select the data to the last cell. So my range is selected. I will press comma and I will apply a criteria. So what is the criteria? Criteria is I want to count pencils. So I will just type pencils, close it. Sorry, I have not given the reference. So first I want to give the cell reference from where I want to pick the value. So let us see, sorry, sorry, okay, I thought I've done some mistake. Okay, so I just made a mistake. I spelled wrong pencil. So it is pencil. I spelled pencils. So this is how the Countif will calculate the pencils in the items set column and will give the output 26. So let us see what was the mistake which I was trying to do, right? Which I was doing here. So sometimes when you using the strings, the text, you just simply use the inverted commas. But when you use numbers, you can use the arguments like is equal to, greater than, or greater than equal to, less than equal to. So that's where you can apply the condition, and we will do that in the next exercise. So now we have just used a fixed reference. I just explained you in the if section that there are two types of statements or the references, the fixed and the variables. So now it will only count pencil, right? That is the one drawback of this function. So what if I just simply remove this absolute reference and use a simple cell to satisfy my condition? How it will work? So now the value is 0 because cell is blank. So if I type binder here, it will give me the output of binders. If I type pen here, it will give me the output of pen. Why? Because this M11 is taking a criteria from this M11. Sorry, the criteria argument is taking a reference from the value inside this cell. So this is the power of variables. You don't have to edit the formulas again and again. You can simply change the values in the cells and then it will give you the desired output. So our question was to find out the number of pencils, number of times pencils purchased. So that is the 26. So any doubt in Countif? So I hope that Countif basic syntax is clear to all of you. If not, you can just simply ask a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is no question. That let's move to the next exercise. That is the which employee has made the maximum purchases. So now the question is that find out that how many times each employee has made purchase, and it is not specifying that what type of purchase. It has to be a purchase, but how many times each employee has made a purchase. If you see that every time employee is making a purchase, the data is here. The Adams has made first purchase on 5/1, and then the second he made on, I think, the 9/2. So it will calculate how many times each employee has made purchases. But to do that, we have to make certain adjustments here. So for that, I will just insert one column here. Simply go to the insert and insert one column, and I will just add here employees, right? and then I will find out the how many employees are there in my data sheet. First of all, I will select all the employees present in my data cell in the column number E, and then I will copy and paste it here, right? Why? Because I want to find out the unique values from this data, because these values are repetitive. This will not give me the exact number that how many employees are there, right? Adams are coming multiple times, Smith is coming multiple times, so that is why I want to find out the unique value. So how do you find it? Simply select the data, then go to data tab, right? And then there is a function which will remove the duplicate values. So how do you remove the duplicate values? Simply, where is that function? This is the remove duplicates, right? Continue with the current selection and remove duplicates. So now you will see only 11 unique values are available to me, which means that there are 11 employees, and now my job is to find out that how many times each employee has made a purchase in this data set. So let us apply the countif function. Countif, open parenthesis, where is the range? I want to calculate it from this column, which is the employee column. Just simply select the cell, drag it down using the shift, control and down key, and then what is the criteria? Criteria is in this cell, and then close parentheses, and it will give me the output, which means that Adam has made 10 purchases throughout this data. And then I have to find out all the employees. For all the employees, I will simply select the same cell and drag it down to the last cell. So let us see how to do that. Simply drag it down, but you will see the answer is not true if you try to filter it out and count it. Why? Can anyone tell me that why there is a problem in this function? Who have ever used Excel functions, who understood the concept of variables and the how cell Excel changed the adjacent cells? Can anyone explain me what is the problem here?
Actually, the very first one is, we have been selected only Adams. We should have been selected the entire, unique names.
Okay.
If we
Any
select the unique names totally, then when we pull out from the one cell to another cell, then it will reach out to the exact count.
okay. So that is one thing. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So let me explain what is actually happening here. When I told you in the if exercise that when you drag down your Excel formulas or drag left or drag right, the Excel also changed the cell references and it changed to the adjacent cells. For example, when I applied this formula here, the range was starting from E6 to E91, that is from the Adams to the last cell, right? So that is the first argument is working fine. But when I applied and drag it down to the second cell, the range has changed. It is taking the reference of absolute adjacent cells, right? So you can see the range is starting from E7, which means it is leaving behind the Adams. So let us see what is happening in the down cells. Now the range has shifted to the last cell, or sorry, to the 12th cell, which should have started with the 6th cell. So that is the problem when you use variables. But there is a solution for that, and we will see how to fix it. So when you want to fix your data range, you don't want to move this data range, you want to fix it from E6 to E91, and you don't want to move it. There is a formula, there is a simple function. Just simply select the range, click and press F4. The F4 will apply these dollar signs and make it a fixed value, fixed reference. It will not shift as you move your function around. Press OK, and now let us again change it, and you will see there will be change in values. Sorry, there is no change. I mean, it means that value was correct, but the problem is when you want to fix the range, you should apply these dollar signs with your range starting and the last cell. So this way you can make your range a absolute range. So I hope you got this concept of fixing your cell references or fixing your ranges to get the desired outputs. So any question? Okay, so
So
we,
what was the method for fixing it? You were mentioning some shift and all.
sorry.
You were giving some keys to
Okay,
fix that.
okay. It was not to fix, it was to select the range, right? For example, you have 100 rows, right? So the most common way to select is to just select and drag it down to select it, right? But this takes a lot of time, right? That is not a efficient way. So to do that, just simply select the first cell from where you want to start your selection. Press Control, Shift, and down arrow key which is on the keyboard. It will select the data to the last cell. You see, the last up to the last it has been selected. So this way you can save time. And when you have to select the whole data, you can simply press Control Shift down and then keep the Control Shift pressed and press the right key. It will select the cell data to the last column and to the last row. This way you can select the whole data. So Control Shift and down arrow key, right arrow key, up, left, you can use these keys to select the data, right? And to fix your range, you use F4. To make this dollar signs, you press F4, it will automatically make your range an absolute range. So now the last question in the Countif is to find out that how many times more than 20 units has been purchased in the month of January. So what is actually happening here? In my if exercise, I explained the concept of multiple if statements, and now we are applying the multiple count ifs to satisfy multiple conditions. So, for example, the question wants to answer that to find out that how many times more than 20 units has been purchased in the month of January. So, we have the month column, we have the units column. So let us see how to apply the count if. So count if and count ifs are exactly the same. The only difference is they are using multiple conditions. So count ifs first criteria. What is the first criteria? I want to check out that how many times more than 20 units has been purchased. So I will select this whole column, right? Now, comma, and then I want to see more than 20. So I will put it under these inverted commas or quotes. So this is the first criteria which we have satisfied here. And the second criteria is to check in which month. So I will select the month column to give me a range and then comma and then use January and close it. So it means that in the month of January, more than 6 times, right? In the month of January, 6 times more than 20 units has been purchased. So you can also check whether the function is working fine or not. Simply select your data, Control Shift L, and it will apply. Sorry, it applied in the Control Shift and L. It will apply the filters, right? Or if you want to apply it on a specific cells, you can simply select the cells, Control Shift L. It will apply filters. And now let me just filter the month of January here to see whether the function is working fine or not. And you will see total there are 7 sales in which only one is less than 20, which means the answer 26 was right. I hope you got my point to apply multiple criteria. And if you want to apply one more criteria here, you can also do that to check how many times Adams has purchased more than 20 units in the month of January. So I will apply one more criteria. I will simply select the range of employees here, right? Again, go back, apply Adams, close it and press enter. So there is only one in which Adam has purchased more than 20 units in the month of January. So this way you can apply, combine and represent your data. I would say analyze your data, right? So any doubts in this before we move forward, because upcoming are the important functions which I want to explain. So any doubt in Countif and Countifs? Okay, there is no doubt. Anyone else? Okay, so far we have covered three concepts only: conditional formatting, if and countif, and now next is sum if. So sum if exactly similar to countif. Instead of counting, it will give you the sum, right? In this countif, we were just using the functions to count 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you apply sum if, it will add the values. For example, it will add 94 to 95, 95 to 67, and give you the sum. So I will leave it up to you. You have to practice it, find out how do you apply it. I will just give you the syntax and then practice it. So just let us say the question is, find out how much money has been spent by Adams. You will see this is the total cost of each purchase, and they want to know that how much money has been spent by the Adams, right? It is not giving the criteria on which product or which month. It is not giving that. So let us see. First of all, let's understand the syntax of sum if, right? So first of all, just go to the formula tab again to understand the syntax. Sum if, okay. So now there are three arguments. The first is range. What is the range where you want to apply your condition? My condition was to check Adams, right? So this is the first condition which I want to satisfy. And if that condition is satisfied, what is the range which you want to add? So that is this third condition. So first is the range. So range is the E column. The criteria is Adams, and sum range is the I column. So I will apply this function. Let us see. I have already applied that. You will see that E5 to E91. This is the column where I want to find out what I want to find out Adams. If it find out the Adam, it will only sell those. It will only add those cells which are adjacent to Adams. For example, Adams 1879, then again Adams 179.64. So it will only add all those cells which are adjacent to Adams. So this is how the sum if function works. First of all, let's apply sum if and then select the range. Where do you want to apply the condition? So my condition is in the E column. I will simply select it, and now either you can use a fixed reference or you can use a cell reference. That is up to you. If you want to just use the name of that person, you can type the name, but I prefer always using the cell reference. So I will use this cell, and then the sum range is in this column. I will select the column and then close it. Now the output is 5461.31, or you can just simply confirm it by simply applying the control L. I will just filter out Adams from here. Now just select these cells and it will give you the output 546.31. I think there is one missing value here, maybe. So that is the answer, 546.131. So this is how you can apply, and if you want to change it from Adams to Smith, you can also do that with the help of this cell reference. It will change the values according to the value which you have feed in this cell, right? So this is how you can identify. The next exercise for you to find out how many units has been purchased in the month of January. So instead of using the column for employees, we will be using the column for month, and the condition is January, right? So just do it at your own time, and if you have any doubt, I'm always available. You can ping me on LinkedIn and I will help you. So that is where we are finishing the sum if. And now we are moving next to the drop down function. So any question in sum, if, count if or conditional, you can clarify here. I will give you 1 minute to just cool down and just grasp whatever we have covered so far. So any doubt, you can just type in this comment section or just use your mic to ask me. Okay, so I will give you 1 minute to just grasp the concepts, and then we will move further, because upcoming are the important and little bit of complex functions which I want to explain to you. Okay, so just take a break of 1 minute. So shall we start, or do you want to take some time to actually grasp the concepts, or shall we move forward, because we are running out of time? Please confirm me.
Please go ahead. And we can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. All right. So let's move forward with our next exercise, that is to apply multiple drop downs. So you might have worked with the drop downs because it is a very common concept, but what I'm going to explain to you is new, where you can link two drop downs to get your outputs. For example, I have this simple small data set, or you can go with the complex data also. But the point is, the first question which it wants to satisfy is create a drop down list for fruits. So to create a drop down list for fruits. But the question is, why do we use drop downs? Sometimes you want to keep the data integrity. You don't want anyone to enter any data which is not required, or maybe by some spelling error, the data will be just completely ruined. So you don't want to want anyone to commit those mistakes, to add any data which is not required, or make any spelling errors. To keep the data integrity, we use drop downs, right? So that is the one simple reason to using drop downs, right? So first of all, just select the cell where you want to apply the drop down, and then go to the data tab, and then go to this option, that is the data validation. Go to data validation and go to this option, select the list. And now either you can type the values which you want to use in your drop down, or you can take a reference from the cells. So cell reference is just simply select this option, the cell reference option, and select the values which you want to use in your drop down, and press OK. And now the drop down will appear: apple, banana, orange. But what if I try to add anything which is not in the drop down? For example, I by mistake use the orange and made the spell error. It will give me the error. The value does not match the data validation restrictions defined for this cell. So this way you can actually prevent your data from getting the wrong values or which are not required. So there is one more thing which you can do with this thing. You simply go back to the data validation, and then the error alert. So what error you want to display when somebody enters a wrong cell value? You can type the error message, choose the correct value. right? Or you can change the icon also. So now let's again try it, right? So choose the correct value. So this way you can customize your functions. So this is how we just answered the first question, create a drop down list for fruits. But the next question is a little bit tricky. We want to create a dependent drop down list, which means we want to create two drop down lists, right? Which will display these headers: fruits, vegetables, flowers, and animals. And what are the options the user is choosing? For example, if I choose fruits from the drop down, the next drop down will only display the fruits, it will not display anything else. So that is and which we call it dependent drop down list. So let us see how to do that. First of all, again go back to the data tab and go to data validation is settings, list, this, and then select these headers. And this way you have created first drop down using the headers. And then next drop down will be, again go back to data. Sorry, you don't have to go to data. We have to select your data and then go to the formulas. Okay, first, once you have created your first drop down, then you have to select your complete data, go to formulas tab, and then go to create from selection, right? And then select only the top row, press OK, right? And then select the cell where you want to create second drop down, go to this data validation, select list, and here we want to apply a formula which is called indirect, and it will redirect me to the cell where I have applied my first drop down. Press OK. Okay, so let's see what is happening here. So now I will select the fruits and I will go there and it will only show me the fruits. If I select vegetables, it will only show me vegetables. Isn't it cool to play around in Excel using all these functions, right? So any doubt in creating this dependent drop-down list, you can just ask me right now. I will explain.
Sir, can you explain once again, please?
Okay, sure. So I think first step is clear to all of you how to create a simple drop-down list, right? The second is a little bit tricky. Once you have selected the headers to create your first drop-down, you have to select your complete data, which you want to appear in your second drop-down, and then go to the formula tab and go to create from selection. So when you use this option, so why are we actually using this create from selection? This option is called create name ranges, which means it will create a range of cells with a header. So headers are fruits, vegetables, flowers, animals. And then under each header, it is giving a value. Under fruits, there are these values. Under vegetables, these are these values. So when you have created a range, right, then you can use that range to actually extract the data from the second cell, which we have already applied here, right? So you have extracted it by using the indirect function by going to data tab, go to data validation, and this indirect function is actually helping you to extract the data from this cell and then comparing it with the name range which you created by going to the selection option, right? And then the everything is happening in the backend, and then it will give you the output. So first of all, create a simple drop down using the headers, select your data, go to selection tab, select the top rows only, and create from selection. You created a named range. Then go to the cell where you want to apply your second drop down, right? Go to the list and type a formula indirect, and then select the cell where you have applied your first drop down. So this way you can create a second drop down. I hope it is
Thank
clear.
you, sir.
Okay. Okay, so far we have covered simple Excel functions, I would say. Now the next function is the Vlookup, the most commonly used, but sometimes it gets a little bit of tricky how to apply Vlookup and what is the actual purpose of using Vlookup. So I will try to explain it as easy as possible. So let's go to this Vlookup. So VLOOKUP is actually used to look up into a data, right? let's say I want to ask you that please look into that data and find out what is the last name of employee ID 78407, right? So you will say, okay, it's Stevens because it is clearly visible to you. But what if there are thousands of data, thousands of rows, and then somebody asks you to please go to this data sheet and then find out what is the employee ID of a person whose last name is right. So you can waste a lot of time using filters, using control H, control F, and using these functions to find out the value. But there is a simple solution, that is the VLOOKUP. The VLOOKUP is doing the exactly same thing. It is actually looking into the data and extracting the value which you want. But how it works actually, that is the problem. VLOOKUP means vertical. V for vertical and lookup for to look into the columns. It will look into the columns and then find out the value, right? So first column, as you see in Excel, there are columns which are named from A to B, C, D, E. But when we use VLOOKUP, the VLOOKUP use the cell numbers as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which means if you have selected a data from column B to column I, the column B will become the column number 1 and so on, column 2, column 3, column 4, and so on, right? And if you started from D, then it will become the D will become column number 1. So this is the concept of columns. So let's see the syntax of VLOOKUP. Just simply go to the formulas tab, insert function, and type VLOOKUP. Go. Okay. Now there are four arguments which they are trying to satisfy here. First is the lookup value. As I told you, if I ask you to find out the email ID of an employee whose last name is Stevens. So Stevens is the lookup value, right? So Stevens is the lookup value which VLOOKUP will take as a reference and will look into that data to find out the value. And next is table array. Table array is the data in which you want to look into, taking the cell reference of that Stevens. So VLOOKUP will look into the data with the last name Stevens, right? And then the column number. You should know the column number in which the email ID is. So email ID is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the column number 6. So VLOOKUP will take the reference of Stevens and then go to the column number 6, right? So column number 6 and Stevens. So they are meeting at this junction, which means the row number 2 and column number 6. So they are meeting at this junction, so that should be the output. If I use column number 5 to find out the age, so column number 5 and row number 2, that is the junction where they are meeting. So it is actually a junction where you have which you have done in the maths also to find out the common intersection points in the graphs which we draw. So it is actually a graph, right? It is actually finding the value which are in the intersection of the rows and columns. First is lookup value, what do you want to look? Second is where do you want to look and in which column you want to look. And last is lookup range lookup, which means that in computer language we have heard about the booleans. So booleans are true or false, which means the output either should be 0 or 1 in which the computer works. So if you want an exact match, right? If you want Stevens to stevensrand at mail.com, then you will always use 0 to find out the exact value. But what if there is multiple values against the single person? For example, if Stevens has two emails, right? Then you can use 1 to find a approximate match. It will find the first value or it is approximately similar to the Stevens to give you the output. But most of the times we don't use 1. We always use 0 to get the exact match. So I hope that I have cleared the syntax of VLOOKUP here. Any doubt in the syntax, you can ask me. So if there is no doubt, we will move forward. Just give me a moment. I have to plug my laptop. Okay, so we have just learned the syntax of VLOOKUP, and now we will apply the VLOOKUP and we will answer these questions. So the first question is find out the salary of Max. So what is Max? Max is actually a first name, right? So we want to find out the salary of Max. So let us see how to apply the VLOOKUP here. So is equal to VLOOKUP, open your parentheses, and what is the lookup value? Either you can use Max or you can take a cell reference, which I have always told you to use the cell references, right? Which gives you the flexibility to play around with your functions. And then the table array. Where is the table? Where is the data? So I will start it from this first cell to the last cell and to the last column. So my table array is selected, and now where is the salary column? Salary column is the I column, which means it is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth column. So I will apply 9 here and 0 for the exact match, right? But there is a problem. I have made a small mistake. My data should start with the A1. Now close the parentheses, press OK. Sorry, there is a problem. Okay, I have not given any value here, so that is why the error is L9. What is the problem?
The selection part is eight columns, right?
Maybe I have done a mistake. 1, 2, 3. Okay, sorry,
You have
problem. Yes,
selected
yes,
from
yeah,
first name.
I have just done a problem error here. I've made an error. The VLOOKUP do not look into the left. I will just explain that, and then it should be the 8.
8.
Okay, so this is the salary. So this is the basic functioning of VLOOKUP. I just made an error of column number, right? So if you change the cell reference cell value here to Max to Julian, it will give me the salary of that person. So that is how you can play around with these functions. So this is the basic function of VLOOKUP. But VLOOKUP has a serious problem. VLOOKUP will always look from left to right, which means the cell reference, the VLOOKUP value which you are using should be on the top left column. For example, if I'm trying to find out any person's detail based on the employee ID, it should be on the first column, right? And if I'm trying to find a value of a person from the first name should be the first column. It will not work from right to left. If I'm trying to find the employee ID of a person with his first name, it will give me an error. So that is the one drawback, that it will always go from left to right. It will not go from right to left, right? So that is the only problem with the VLOOKUP. But we have a solution for that. I will explain how to do that. And then next is for you have to practice it. Find out the email ID of employee ID 78407, which means this time the employee ID is in the column number 1. So this is my primary key based on which I will find the value. So lookup value should be take a cell reference and feed the input, or you can simply type the value, select the data, give the column. So email ID is in the column number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the 6 should be the column number, and the exact match should be given with the 0. So this way you can get the output of email ID of that person with this employee ID, right? So that is the second problem which you have to solve. So let's solve the third problem. Find out the occupation and mobile number of David. So we have two problems here to find out occupation and mobile number of David. So David is the first name. So we will take data reference from B column to I. or you can just take the whole, but you have to make sure that your data is on the right side, not on the left side. So let us apply a VLOOKUP for the occupation and second for the mobile number is equal to VLOOKUP. So what is the lookup value? Just give it this cell reference, and then where is the table? So this is my table. Where is the occupation? Occupation is in the column number, I think 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. And then what should be the output? 0. Press OK. Now value is NA because there is no value in the reference cell which I have given here. So output is, again there is a problem. Alright, so just play around with your data and you will get the output. Okay, so now the occupation of David is interior designer, and then to find out the mobile number we will simply drag down the formula, but before that we have to fix our references by pressing the F4 and again press F4 to make it absolute so that it do not shift as we shift our formula to the below cells. Simply select it and drag it down. Now the answer is same. Can anyone tell me that why it is giving me the same output as of the first cell? That why mobile number is not giving me this desired output?
Because the column number is 7, you need to put it 8.
Yes, we have to change the column number, right? That is the only problem here. As you count it, my data is starting from the column number B. So column number B is 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. So the mobile number is the column number 6. You can simply go there and type 6 and press OK. So now I have got my mobile number. So now you might be wondering that why I'm doing all these activities. What is the actual purpose and actual real life example of this function? So let me give you this biodata sheet. So this is the biodata sheet which I prepared just to practice my VLOOKUP, right? And if I type any value here in the search box, it will give me the complete information of that employee, which is taking it from this employee database, right? In the employee database it might sometimes become difficult to find out all the details. It will also give me the details and even the photograph of that person. So let us try. If I delete it and I type my own name, it will give me, sorry, Shank. I have changed the data here, I think. Okay, so now you see the data was missing, so it is giving me the NA error. So as I typed in my name, it changed the photograph, it given all the details. So this is how do you apply VLOOKUP in the real life problems. So I hope you got my point. So any questions in the VLOOKUP? Well, actually it is very interesting to see that people have understood it in the first lecture, because it took me around 1 month to understand the VLOOKUP. So please clarify the doubts, because I think VLOOKUP is actually a tricky function. Okay, so let us move forward because we just covered the VLOOKUP, we solved the problems, and this is the problem to solve for you. Just practice it at your own time, right? And then we have the index and match function. So what is the use of index and match function? We will first of all try to understand it, and then we will club these index and match function. So first of all, let's understand what is index. So as I told you in the VLOOKUP function, that VLOOKUP is actually giving you the output which is at the intersection of the rows and columns, right? But instead of giving a row, we are giving it a cell value. and based on that cell value, VLOOKUP identifies that on which row the data is lying, and then we already give the function the column number, the row value, and it gives the output at the intersection. But index is also doing the same thing, but instead of giving a cell reference value, we have to give it a row number, the exact row and the exact column. And if you know the exact column and the exact row, then it will give you the desired output, as you can see in this function. So now you might be wondering that what is the value, what is the use of this index function if we already have the VLOOKUP? Well, I will tell you, when we try to create dashboards, that is the time when you have to apply these index and match functions to actually serve your purpose. So let us see first of all how index function is working. Again, go back to the formulas, go to insert and type in index, go press OK. So now you see the arguments. The first arguments is array, row number and column number. Simple argument. Select where is the data, give it a row number and give it a column number. It will give you the output. That's it, right? So let's see how apply index here. Where is the data? Data is array, right? So let me select my data. So my data has been selected. Now I want to find out the question. What is the question is asking me to do? Find out the fourth employee in the database. Who is the fourth employee in the database? So if I want to find the fourth employee, which means I have to use the fifth row, because the first row is occupied by the headers. So I will give row number 5. And where is the employee name? First name is in the column number 2. So I will give it a column number 2 and press this. So now Julian is the fourth employee, as you can see, right? So if I ask you to find out the employee ID of the fourth employee, so the employee ID is in the column number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. You will just simply change the column number, right, to from 2 to 6, and it will give you the employee ID. But the problem with the index function is that sometimes the data is so huge, we do not know in exactly in which row the data is lying. So that is why we rarely use index function to actually find out the values in this manner, right? So we just club it with different functions. So this is how we just covered the index function. It is a simple function. Just give it a data, give it a row number, give it a cell number, and it will give you the output. That's it. So I hope that index function is clear to all of you.
Yeah.
Okay, then next we are moving forward with the match function. So now match is also exactly doing the same thing which the VLOOKUP was doing, but instead of giving an output in exactly the in the manner of a data, it gives you the row location, that where that data is actually lying. For example, if I want to find out that in which row the data of Scott is available, it give me the row number, that yes, the data of Scott is in the row number 11. So that is how the match function works. So let us understand the syntax. Just type the match, go and OK. Now first is the lookup value. Exactly in the case of VLOOKUP, we have to give it a lookup value, right? And then the table array where you want to look it, right? And then the match type. What should be the match type? The exact match or your, I will say, the approximate match. But instead of giving the table array, in this we are using a single column, right? We are not using the whole data, we are just simply using the single column in which your lookup value is lying. For example, if the first name is in the column number 2, so I will just only select the column number 2. So let's apply the match function here. As you can see, I have already applied it here. I will just again apply the match. What is the lookup value? Find out the row location of Scott. It wants to find out in which row the data of Scott is available. So I will just simply select this cell, go to the lookup array. So what is Scott? Scott is, I think, the first second name. It is the last name. So I will just select my last name column and then give it the exact match, close it, press OK, and it will give me the row number. In the 11th row, the data of Scott is available. You will see this is where my data is. So now you might be wondering that what is the actual use of these two functions, but when these two functions are combined together, they become more powerful than VLOOKUP, right? So anyone has ever worked with the index and match function? Okay, so let's see. Now we have just understood the basic syntax of index and the match function. But if you have seen that in the VLOOKUP, the only problem was that it do not look the values which are on the left side. It always look from left to right. But index and match functions, they do not have this kind of drawback. They can look anywhere, right, left, up, and down. You just have to give them the right instructions, what do you want them to perform. So when you combine index and match, you can actually make it more powerful than the VLOOKUP, because VLOOKUP will not look to the left, but index and match can look at anywhere. So if in case I have the email ID of a person and I want to know the employee ID of that person, I can perform that using the index and match function, but I cannot do that with the VLOOKUP. So that is the only drawback with the VLOOKUP, but when combined, index and match, they can do better than the VLOOKUP, right? So let us see how to apply. Find out the employee ID number of Gray. So where is Gray? Actually, Gray is, I think, the last name. So the question is to find out the employee ID of an employee whose last name is Gray. So we have to find it, which means we have to look to the left side of our lookup value. So let us see how to apply the index and match function. First of all, just apply the index, started with the index. For the index, first argument is to select the data. Where is the data? My data is starting from the A to I. So this is my data. And then the second argument is, if you remember that in the index function, you have to feed it the row number, but we do not know in which row the data is lying. For that, we will use the match function, because match function will feed the row number to index, and we already know the column number. So both combined will give us the desired output. So match the lookup value. This is the lookup value. And where is the lookup array? So lookup array is in my third column. So this is my column which I want to use here, and then 0. And what is the column number? Right, where is the, what is that column number in which you want to find the value? The column is in the column number 1. So this is the output, 27914. So if I change the value from Grant to Scott, it will change the output. If I change it to Watson, it will change the output. So I hope that you understood index and match. First, index is selecting the whole data. To give it the to find out the exact row number, the match function is giving it a data feed, the row number, and we already know the column number in which our data is. So that is how the index and match functions can be combined. So any question in the index and match? So I hope that it is clear. If that is the case, then we will move forward and we'll cover the last topic or our today's session, that is the pivots. So pivots are the most used function when it comes to data analysis. So if you see that we have this complex data which we just used in our first Excel sheet, the sales data, right? And based on this data, we will try to answer certain questions, and these questions are available in your Excel sheet, number practice data sheet here. So first question is, which country has made maximum profit selling Paseo, and which is the highest selling product? Find out the number of units of Montana sold by Germany. And the last is to create a pivot table to demonstrate number of sales made by each country month wise, right? And then filter them based on the product sold, and then sort it based on months with high sales to low sales. So it sounds a little bit complex, but we will try to understand the data first and then we'll answer these questions. So if you see, we have multiple columns: the country, product, what are the products the countries are selling, right? And how many units are they selling, the unit price, the sale price, the sales which they have made, right? And then the profit, and in which month and the year they have actually made those sales. So everything is available here. So we will use this data to create pivot charts, pivot data, and we'll answer those questions. So first of all, to create a pivot chart, you have to select your data, click anywhere, and press Ctrl T. So by pressing Ctrl T, you are actually converting your data into tables. So if your data has headers, which I think should always be available whenever we are actually dealing with the data should always have the headers. If your data has headers, keep it checked and press OK. So now your data has been converted to table. And when it's converted into table, it is easy to perform analysis. So now we have to convert this data, this table, into a pivot table. First of all, let's change the name of this table by going to the design tab and change the name of sales table. Or you can see simple sales data, right? And now go to the insert and go to pivot table. And now there are two options. Either you can create a pivot table in the same sheet, but it is not possible because the whole sheet is occupied, or you can go to the next sheet which we have already created, right? If you go the new worksheet, it will create a new blank sheet and create your pivot chart or pivot data here. But if you want to do it in the existing worksheet or in the same worksheet, you can also do that. So we have already created a worksheet named create pivot here. So I will just select this existing worksheet option, go to this cell reference option, go to this worksheet and select the first cell where you want to apply your pivot table. Now the next question is, add this data to the data model. When you check this option, it will add this whole data into a data model which you can use multiple times without even selecting your data. So that is the power of data model. It will just store the data in the backend and then you can just extract it anytime, anywhere by just going to the pivot tables. So press OK. So now this is the blank pivot table, and based on that pivot data, we will answer these questions. The first question is, which country has made maximum profit selling Paseo? So now we will create a pivot table here. So you see there are four fields. First field is filters, columns, values, and rows. So whatever data you put in the values, it will calculate it. Either sum, count, average, percentage. It's up to you what type of calculation you want to do. And if you want to categorize your data, then you can put that option into the rows, and if you want to filter your data, you can choose that option and put it on the filters tab. So we will try that. So first of all, they are asking that which country has made maximum profit selling Paseos, which means they want to filter the data based on product wise. So I will just put the product tab in the filters, right? And then the countries in the rows because I want to calculate the number of sales country wise. So you will see all the countries will appear here, and then I want to calculate the values, that number of sales, right? So it is the units sold. So this is the output that Canada has sold these units combined: France, Germany, Mexico, and America. But the question is, if we go back to the question, which country has made maximum profit? Okay, the question is find out the maximum profit selling PESIO. So I will just go again to this option, go to design, sorry, analyze, and go to the field list. It will appear the fields. I will just remove this option and I will go to the profit tab. So it will give me the profit. So now the question is to find out the amount of profit made by the countries selling PESIO. So I will select the product PESIO. Okay, and now it will just filter out only data which is related to the PESIO. And now the question is find out the which country has made maximum. If you want to find out, just simply select the data and then go to the sort option, go from largest to smallest. So data is already segregated in that way. So it means that Canada has made the maximum profit selling the PESIOs. So this is how you can analyze your data, which if I ask you to go and find out in this data will become very difficult to understand. But if you know how to use pivots, you can simply analyze the data, represent your findings, and get your work done. So any doubt in pivot tables before we move forward and answer the rest of the questions? Okay, so I hope that the basics of pivot table has been understood by everyone. So the next question is, which is the highest selling product? So now we have to find out that which product has the highest sales. So the option which I given you to add your data in the data model, this will help me here to create another pivot table without even selecting the data. So I will just go to the pivot, select the existing sheet, select the cell, right, and then create another pivot. So you will see it has already represented me the data which I've added in the sales model. You'll see. So I will just go to the sales data and I will go to the product in the rows and the units sold in the values, because I want to find out how many units has been sold against each unit, and find out that which product has made maximum sales. So after selecting this, just go to the sort and go to largest to smallest, which means that Pasios has made uh, maximum sales, right, with this number of sellings. So this way we have answered our second question also. And then the third question is, find out the number of units of Montana sold by Germany. Okay, so we can just do it in the same pivot, just applying a filter. Just go to the analyze tab and field list. Now the question is asking me to find out that how many units of Montana has been sold by Germany. So I have to filter it out country wise. So I will just put the country tab in the filter and will apply the filters here. Okay, so this is, so Germany. Okay, I think there is some problem. Again, go back to the analyze. Let's see what is the problem here. Okay, so this is the number of units of Montana sold by the Germany. This is the output, right? So just copy this and paste it in the your uh, exercise sheet. So this is how we have answered the three questions. Find out the maximum selling profits by PSEO, highest selling product, and number of units of Montana sold by Germany. So the now last question is create a pivot chart. So it is a pivot chart actually. Right. Uh, Create a pivot chart on the corresponding pivot tabs to demonstrate number of sales made by each country month wise, right? Number of sales made by each country month wise, and filter them based on the products sold, and then sort it based on the months with high sales to low sales. So let's go to the insert and then go to the pivot chart, right? Go to the existing, okay, sorry. Okay, so I have to just uh, select the data here. Okay, insert and go to the pivot chart. So now they are asking us to represent the data month wise. So to represent month, we will use this line option. Select it, right, and then press Control and then just move it, and let's understand what is the question. Create a pivot chart on the corresponding pivot tabs to demonstrate number of sales made by each country. Made by each country month wise, and filter them based on the products. Okay. So this is the number of sales product wise, but we have to create it country wise, right? And then we have to put the country tab in the filter tab, right? So it means that we have to use all, and then we have to sort it out from maximum to low sales. So for that we will just go to the, okay, it's okay. So now it's already sorted out. So it is going from the maximum sales to the lowest sales. So I think that is what they're asking. So if you want to filter it out, you can just filter it country wise, and it will give you the data, right? So this is what we were trying to understand in the pivots, but there is one more thing which I want to explain here, to how to give it more visualization. So to give it a visualization, you can simply go to this option, go to the insert and go to the slicer tab, and then select the country. It will give you a visual filter tab which you can use to actually filter your data country wise. Just place it here, and I want to make 2 rows of it. And if I select on any tab, it will filter my data based on that country product wise from highest to lowest sales. So this is how you use pivot tables. You can apply them and place them anywhere in your data and create a dashboard, right? So this is what I was talking about, the pivots. And when you have a slicer, you can actually combine multiple pivots to a single slicer and filter it out. For example, just select the pivot, right click and go to report connections, and all those pivots which you have created will be available here. So press OK, and now if I press any country, it will filter all both of these two pivots, first and second. So this way, if you have multiple pivots, you can just combine them and filter them using a single slicer. So any doubt, any question in the pivot tables, pivot charts and slicers?
Need to get practice, then only will come to know.
Okay, and anyone else? So before we close this session, because we are about to finish this session, I hope that the concepts which I have explained to you will have made any sense to you, and it is not enough to explain these functions in a single session. So it's up to you to practice them again and again, even if you have, even if you don't need, just keep practicing so that you get comfortable with these functions and you can apply them anywhere, combine them, and analyze your data, right? So this is how you use pivots, use slicers, and there is one more thing you can add, the timeline. So the timeline is only available when your data is having a date, month, or anything which is representing the dates, year, month, or any date. So what is the purpose of this timeline? It will actually filter your data based on date wise. So if I select on the July, it will filter the data based on that month, and based on that September. If you want it to filter yearly, you can do it. So go to 2013 and 2014, you can represent your data, right? If you want to go quarterly, you can also do that. So that is the power of Excel tools and visualization tools which you can use to create dashboards. So this is the foundations of creating dashboards. So I hope that everything which I explained has made any sense. I was able to explain things as easy as possible. So if you still have any question, you can simply ask me, because we are about to close this session. So I will give you a few minutes, just ask me questions. We are open for that. So so I hope there is no question because nobody is asking. So if there is no question, okay, sir.
Do we have a recording of the session, Sajjan?
I have made it, but I will see if it is if I can upload it on YouTube.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I missed starting phase.
No problem, sir. I think I have recorded that also.
Sure, brother. Thanks a lot.
Okay, sir.
And it was a nice session. Thank you very much for enhancing knowledge. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, so anyone else who wants to ask anything, wants to add anything, you are. It's up to you. It's open for you.
Um, the dashboard, the very initial point thing. Need to get practice, then one will get the few for kind of ideas or errors, whatever it is, and we need to do a research. If we have the same the entire video, that would be helpful for us to go through again.
Okay, I have just tried to record it. I will see at the end of the session whether it's recorded or not, and if it is available, I will upload it on YouTube and I will share the link. And then you can,
Okay.
or if you have no, if you don't know, I have a YouTube channel named by Ask Shashank. You can just go there, subscribe to the channel, and you will
Okay.
find other videos also, right? So I've just shared the name Ask Shashank, right?
Sure, sure.
I will upload a video, and I have uploaded few more videos already. You can just take a look, right? So,
Sure.
okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
And thank you so much for the efforts, regarding on, giving a presentation on the complete, advanced Excel, training towards to our, the students, whoever, interested. Thank you so much. It's a
Thank
free session that's really, some people cannot afford, but they can, utilize this kind of a free session.
that's the only goal. So thank you very much for taking your time and joining. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone. Right, if you don't have any questions, so we are closing this session. So thank you once again for joining, giving your time and believing in me. Right, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir.
thank you. जाने वो कैसे